we're doing here is we are testing this room for the people here, the 21st century classroom. Let me orient you a little bit with what we got going on here. What's this? Y'all seen this before. What is it? Is this a smart board? Is it like our smart board downstairs?
No.
It's extra smart. It is a bit different. We have a mounted projector, right, for one thing. But at the same time, this is a dual touch smart board. In other words, on the one downstairs, one person can write, but you shouldn't have like math races on it. This is a dual touch. You can have 2 contact points on it, so you can have 2 people up there writing at once. They're upgrading the software. I think we can have 4 contact points, which is really cool. That board over there is a Promethean board. Looks like a smart board, right? It's basically the same type of thing. It's an interactive whiteboard. These are by far the 2 biggest names in interactive whiteboards. Okay? Promethean does some of the same stuff, but some of the different stuff as well. I tried to connect to that one as well, but I couldn't get it to pop up. So I'm a big smart board fan anyway, and I've never been a fan of Promethean boards, and that just kept my opinion going the same way. So whatever, piece of junk. Some other things that we've got going on in here. Obviously, this is the 21st century classroom. These walls are all whiteboards, right? We're going to be writing on these and doing some stuff on these a little bit later. We're getting a smart table, which is, I know I'm old. According to Alex reminded me that I'm old. Back in the day, they used to have video games like when you go to a pizza place. Remember them? You sat down and played Pac-Man at the table. They have smart tables that are like that, where they're 4-point touch, and 4 kids can sit and play on it at once. So they're getting a smart table in here to be able to play with. And this is going to be one of the places here on campus that they're going to be able to work to train teachers, right, on some of the technology. Is it me or is this cutting in and out? I don't really need it, but I'm just testing the technology for them. This is going to be yours for when a question is asked, just again, because that's bugging me. It's bugging me bad. But this is going to be yours for if there's a question. So just get it over there. Thank you very much. Right? So I'll just stick it here. So we'll try to remember to do that. This is one of the fun things we get to do in EdTech, is we get to play with the toys and see what it does. Other things around the room, obviously we have the sound system. You can look up here. We have speakers mounted up there to project everything back this way. You see all this crazy stuff up here? They purposely didn't close up that ceiling. Those are all lights. This used to be like a TV studio. And so when they would move the lights around and stuff, those are all the tracks that the lights went on. Okay? That's what that is. You see right back there, my laptop is up, and you can see that I've got the webcam on. Right now, we are literally broadcasting live onto Google Plus and YouTube. Right now, it's streaming live on Google Plus and YouTube. So pretty soon here, I'm going to tilt it this way so everybody in the world can watch Alec during my class. Okay? Fair enough. 7 seconds, I'm moving over here. That's what you're going to do. So, again, this is a new room. They actually have only had it ready for about a month. They've had a couple of trainings in here, but no faculty member has tried to teach a class in here yet. So I'm like, sign me up. Let's give it a whirl. I can already tell that we're going to say something about this deal, because it's driving me insane already. And my initial thought was I was going to hook my laptop up and use that webcam right there to broadcast and try to get a bigger range in the room. It would make me look smaller. This just gets me straight on, so that's no fun. It's like sitting, watching the hippo through the glass at the zoo. So, one of the things, just really briefly, kind of as an introduction, one of the things that we have to watch sometimes when we're using technology or integrating technology like this is we have to be able to do a fair amount of troubleshooting, right? Have you ever tried to use technology and it didn't work? And so what are some things that we try? If we come in and say our monitor isn't working, right? What are some things that we can try? Wait. What are some things that we can try? Who wants the microphone? I shouldn't say that because nobody wants the microphone. So I'll just hand out the microphone. What's something we can try if the monitor's not working? Come on, push the button.
We can try to turn it off or on.
Okay, we can check the power. See if it's, do you have it turned on? All right, yeah, hand it to Amy so she can say something else. Well, give me a different thing. Check the on-off button. What's something else you can do?
Show off the lid.
But she can't see the screen.
I'll still try.
Okay, it wouldn't work. All right, you can check the brightness, right? Pass it to Sean. Let's see what Sean has to say to warm our hearts and raise our intellects. What's something else we can try, Sean?
Ask somebody that I know.
Okay. Help! All right, pass it around to Alex. What can we do, Alex?
I wouldn't know what to do.
You wouldn't know what to do? You'd use Sean's technique, right? Somebody bail me out.
Ask April.
You'd ask April. That's what everybody over here would do, is ask April. April, what would you do?
I'd probably reboot the computer.
Hey, reboot, why would you do that?
Sometimes it's time to do that.
Okay, sometimes it's time to do that. Lori, there's one other thing I can think of. That would probably, well, there's two other things I would think of.
Cry.
That wasn't one. Cry's not one.
Make sure it's plugged in.
I would make sure it's plugged in. Thank you, April. So, you just repeated what she said. You did. Oh, is that what? Not only does April know all the answers, she's a mind reader. All right. What else? Well, I can think of one other thing besides what they said. Your monitor's not working. What's one other thing you can do? Anybody? We're not going to go buy a new computer yet. It's not time for that. Anybody? Jiggle the wires, right? Make sure your connections are okay, right? So, for example, well, I don't have it on here. Let me go grab it off my Mac. When you plug in an external monitor, sometimes the connection, right? The connection's not very solid. The cords might be dangling a little bit, in which case if you just get it, make sure that they're tight. That's something else that you can check. All right? This is just an adapter because, again, Macs don't like to play nice with everybody else. Sometimes you have to do this to make it so it fits and everything else. All right? So, that's, make sure our computer's on, then one, make sure the monitor's on, make sure it's plugged in, check wires, that type of stuff. All right? So I bring this up because these are basic things that we can think of. I was trying to get this working before y'all came in here, and I was fiddling around with it, and it came up, and I had it connected to the projector, and I couldn't get the smartboard to work. It says it has to be connected to a smartboard device, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, how's it not connected to a smartboard device? It's projecting my screen. It's doing everything except the touchy thing. I've checked all my wires. Everything. What do you think? What would you have done? Because it's working now because I'm awesome. It's working somewhat. We're going to pretend it's working. It works when I write. What do you do? I hadn't turned it on. I hadn't turned the board on. So, I hope that's still working. Yeah, good. Sheesh, that would have been bad. All right, so, with that said, this is some troubleshooting stuff to remember for when you do it. I want to talk a little bit about WebQuests. All right? To finish out the class, we've got the audio and video, right? You're going to turn your videos in, right? Most of you already have that done now. I think this next week you record a podcast, is that correct? And then the last 2 weeks of class you write a web quest. Does that sound right? Yeah? April says yes, and we know she's got the syllabus memorized. So. You'll have no idea how many emails I get from April reminding me what I'm supposed to be doing. You can't deny it, April. She keeps me on track. She's like my secretary in class. I'm just kidding.
Now they think you're serious.
Now they think I finish it. That's the beauty of it. They don't know what to believe. And it's being broadcast to the world. So, now you can show it to your husband. Look what I got to do during class. So, podcasting, since you're going to do it at home, we only have one Mac person, right? So you'll do your podcast in GarageBand, right? Go like this. Yes. GarageBand. You open up GarageBand, do a new file, and you can click podcast, and it'll create a podcast for you. It's pretty easy. The rest of you, on your PC, are going to download. Is it me or is that not working? Hey, you know what? I did not go drinking at lunch, I promise. That's kind of tripping. Audacity is the name of the program. Audacity. Audacity. It's a free program to download. Okay? Go download it. Is what you're going to use. That whole track thing we talked about today, the multiple tracks, that's going to be very important to you using Audacity, because Audacity looks exactly like what I drew up here today. Okay? Audacity, when you download it and you open it up, it's kind of ugly. It's not pretty like Mac stuff, but you're going to have the same buttons that you see up at the top. You'll see a red circle for record, and you'll have the green triangle for play and stuff like that. Basically, you're going to hit record and start talking, right? Most of these computers that I see here all have built-in mics to them, right? So you should be able to just go with them. If you don't have a computer that has a webcam with that, is it there? Man, this thing is freaking me out. Seriously, it's like I hear myself come back. It's weird. Is there anybody who needs an external microphone? Do you know you don't have a microphone on your computer? Everybody's going, I don't know, man. I push the button and stuff happens. When it doesn't happen, I call April. I have a couple of external mics, which you'll have to get them today. And you'll have to get them back to me. So, but I don't mind lending them out. So, at any rate, you can check and find out. When you open it up, you can hit the record button and just start talking. Right? It'll start recording for you. On that podcast, it's going to talk about needing buffer music. So a little music that plays at the beginning and at the end. That free play music, that URL I gave you downstairs, that's where I go get that from. Get about 15 seconds of buffer on each side. And so that free play music, you can download 15-second snippets, 30-second snippets. So no more than 30, because then it gets really long. But that podcast needs to be 5 minutes long. Okay? And it needs to be over something in your content area. Okay? But a good number of you are elementary education, aren't you? Which means it can be any area, really. Because in elementary ed, you cover everything. So, Sean, you're elementary, aren't you, Sean? So Sean could say, we're doing a geography unit, and then you could talk about Iran. Like, you talk about, we're just sitting there and just talk about it for a while. So, any number of things like that, it could be really easy, You could do basketball and talk about, the importance of, teamwork or something. Anything like that, you know what I'm saying? So be a little creative with it. It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be bad, but it's got to be 5 minutes, and that does not include the buffer music. Okay? So what will end up happening, I'm going to draw on this side of the board because this is the drunk side. What will end up happening is you'll record your audio, right, on one track, and then your buffer music will actually show up on another track. So your audio might be all up here, and your buffer music will end up looking down here. You'll have some at the beginning and some at the end on a separate track. Remember how we talked about how to play it with? So what will happen is you'll want to select your audio, just click the hold on, and drag it to line those up. Does that make sense? So it'll work pretty easily. It shouldn't be too bad for you. Okay? Now the hardest part about Audacity is not the downloading it. It's not doing this. It's the saving part. Okay? Because here's what happens when you use Audacity. If you go into Audacity and you just go File, Save, what it saves is a project file. It does not save an audio file. It will save it with the extension .aup. Right? If you turn into me a .aup file, I cannot hear it, no matter how badly you want me to. It's just a project file that will come to me empty and will have nothing on it. It's good to save your work as you go, save your project, but just like we did down there when we were working with iMovie and we had to export the movie, you have to export your podcast from Audacity. Now, this is extremely important. When you download Audacity, you need to make sure you download two things. You're going to download Audacity. In the same spot where you go download Audacity, they're going to talk about the lame encoder. L-A-M-E. Like, it's so lame that they don't just build it in. And I have to download a second file. But download the lame encoder as well. Before you can export your podcast from Audacity, you're going to have to install the lame encoder. I'll post a video file up that shows you how to do that, but it's really very easy. You install the lame encoder on your computer. The first time you go to export your podcast, it says, where's the lame encoder? And you go point it to the folder where you install the lame encoder, and then it says, oh, okay. And then you never have to do it again. Okay? So make sure you download Audacity and the lame encoder, but probably, I don't know, y'all are pretty smart. But I would imagine there's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 people in the class who are going to forget to do the lame encoder, and I'm going to turn in an AUP file, and I can't give you points for an AUP file. Okay? So make sure you install the lame encoder, and that you export it to MP3 format. Export it to an MP3 format. Okay? Questions on that? Yes, ma'am.
What's the spot where we get the buffer?
freeplaymusic.com. Where do we get the buffer music? From freeplaymusic.com. All copyright-free music in all sorts of genres.
They automatically come 15 seconds.
What it'll do is you can pick your genre, and then it'll have, most songs will have chunked up. It'll say download 15 seconds, 30 second, 45 second, a full minute, depending on the song, they'll have it chunked out. And it's just for free. And I mean, there are thousands. And it's all instrumental.
You can transport it from that to...
So say you download, Sean, you get your 15-second clips, right? So you do your recording here, and then you're going to import those clips, and they'll come up on this track, right? Or you'll just import it once, and it'll be on the front of this track. You'll select this and pull it down so that they line up right at the end of this, lines up with that. And then what you'll do is you'll just copy this, paste it again, and put the second one down. Does that make sense? That way you got a good beginning. That's the easiest way to do it. I can't hear you. It's not Tuesday.
What exactly
something about anything that's in your content. Your elementary ed, right? So anything. What are you doing in your other classes? What other classes do you have? Let's not talk about GPA. See ya. What are you doing in geometry? What are you talking about in geometry? Okay, what about your other class? What other content class do you have? What are you doing in reading? Is my class the only one you do anything in? Then let me ask you this. Your son is how old? 2? Let's take something that you're supposed to be doing from your reading class maybe. I'm just giving you an idea. And maybe try to incorporate reading a book to him, recording it, or talking to him about children's books or reading a journal. You know what I'm saying? Pick something you're already doing. Don't make this be something that you have to go out and do other research on. Pick something you're already doing in your life and try to incorporate that in. You have that luxury at elementary at every subject applies. Does that help at all? A little bit? Okay. You got an idea, Marilyn Manson?
Yes.
What's your idea?
Well, we just did lesson plan for our reading class, and I said, what do you thought?
That's pretty much exactly right. Yeah, you're supposed to use the microphone. I'll do the Marilyn Manson song for you.
I know I was right.
All right.
Well, I'm doing my LBD. One of my practice
Do I know what LBD is? What's LBD? Is that a Kentucky thing? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm serious. I'm sure that they can't hear you around here. You were saying something about LBD.
Oh, yeah. So I'm writing Mr. Reading a research paper on some disability in our LBD classes, one of the classrooms. And mine was on PR confirmation, and it was like a disease that children have, and like learning disabilities have.
Uh-huh.
I just tell you about that stuff.
That's fine. That's fine. For the purposes of this class, what I need you to do is show me if you can create a podcast. I really don't care the subject matter. I'm not going to grade the subject matter unless you make some glaring error, you know. If you get on there and you tell me about how Abraham Lincoln was the father of our country and all that type of stuff, I will probably count off. I will probably have a problem with that. But, I need to see that you can create a podcast for the purposes of this class. This is my wonderful yes and yes. Just want to make sure I was going to pick up the Andrew from this pool party. Okay. All right, so any questions about the podcast? We good on that? It's pretty easy to find, right? Audacity and Malay Encoder. Did you already get it? Oh, look at that, Ashland. The Ashland. Well, they're taking control. All right. All right. Let's see. What's the deal with this side of the board? I wonder. It's really weird. Let's see if this thing picks up. Let's talk about WebQuests. Okay? Because after the week that you do the podcast, you're going to do WebQuest, and I'm going to give you 2 weeks to work on the WebQuest. WebQuest is kind of like a lesson plan, but it's really not at all. I'm going to write, well, if this board will let me write, give me a definition of a WebQuest. No, I'm not going to type. A WebQuest is an inquiry. Look at that, it's not working. Holy smoke. Can you even read that? Seriously, it's like this half of the board is drunk. That's not nearly working as well as I hope. It's an inquiry-oriented activity. Okay? An inquiry-based activity in which most if not all, of the research takes place on the internet. Okay? It's an inquiry-oriented activity where most, if not all, the research takes place on the internet. That's a really important definition because that will help you remember what it's about. Okay? Let me tell you the problem with WebQuests is you can find 1 million examples of them on the internet, and about 999,812 of them are bad. Don't follow what WebQuests are supposed to be about. So I want you to make sure that you do it right and not like some of these crappy ones that are out there. All right? So an inquiry-oriented activity, most if not all of the research takes place on the internet. There are, depending on which template you use, 6 parts to a web quest. I'll tell you what they are, and we're going to talk about them each individually. One of the biggest problems that you can have in a web quest is mixing up what goes in what part. So it'll be very important that you compartmentalize these different things. All right? So that you don't have what I refer to as section bleed, things bleeding into the different sections. That's one of my pet peeves. It just means you're not paying attention enough to what's going on. Okay, the 6 parts of a web quest, depending on the template, are numero uno, introduction. Numero dos, task. Numero tres, process. 4, resources. 5, evaluation. 6, conclusion. Okay? Introduction, task, process, resources, evaluation, conclusion. The reason I say it's 6, depending on which version of the template you're using, is because sometimes you will see process and resources combined. Okay? Actually, the version of the template that I will post up for you, I believe, has those combined. I think it's easier to do it that way for me personally. It makes more sense, but you don't necessarily have to. Okay? So, let's talk through the 6 sections. All right? I'll try to tell you what people do wrong on those sections. First section is the introduction. Okay? The introduction of a web quest serves 2 purposes. 1 is to gain the attention of your students. Okay? But 2, it's also to orient them to some sort of scenario that they're supposed to be following. When you write a web quest, unlike a lesson plan that you write, who's the audience for a lesson plan? Who reads the lesson plan? Who reads the lesson plan? The teacher. It's not for the students. That's for the teacher, right? But when you write a web quest, the students read it, right? They're going to go walk through this assignment. You're writing out the whole assignment for them. So you've got to get their attention, and it's always done with some sort of scenario. So they might be a doctor, they might be an explorer, they might be an astronaut, they might be a newspaper reporter, any number of things, whatever you come up with. But in the introduction, you're going to tell them about the scenario. You're going to orient them to what's going to be happening. Okay? And it needs to be exciting. It doesn't need to be boring. Lesson, don't be boring. Okay? Deal? And don't make it about Dexter either. That would just be creepy. I guess unless it was a forensic pathology class, then it might be interesting. But you're not teaching forensic pathology. So, unfortunately, right? All right. So, gain their attention, introduce them to a scenario. The scenario is important because you need to follow it down through all 6 sessions. So this is a story that you're going to weave through the whole thing. Second part, the process, or excuse me, the task. The task is where you give them the assignment. Right? What is it? What is the product that they are going to be coming up with? All right. Now we talk about integrating technology, correct? And so we've talked about some different technologies to integrate over the course of this semester. What's the technology that's going to be integrated in a WebQuest? Pickles? What is it? Now think about this. You know the answer already. What's the technology that will be integrated in a WebQuest? Quest. The internet. There you go. It takes place on the internet, so the internet is going to be the technology integrated, right? Which means that when you write a WebQuest, the product that they have to come up with does not have to be computer-based. Okay? Does not have to be computer-based, because the integration of technology comes within using the internet. Okay? So you're going to continue the scenario down, and you're going to give them the task that they have to accomplish. Or in other words, what's the objective of the web question? What is it that they are going to be graded on? But again, you're going to write it like a narrative, like a story. You're going to have it in that section. Okay? After the task, you have the process. The process is step-by-step instructions. And I mean step-by-step instructions that they have to complete to be able, that they have to follow to be able to complete the task. What is it that they have to do to be able to complete the task? You're going to give it out to them step by step. So in other words, sometimes I get people who don't think this through very well. And they'll turn in a web question, the process is like 3 steps. How many assignments have you ever had in your life that only took 3 steps to do? That's not very detailed, is it? Okay, we need to be detailed because, again, they're going to be reading this. They're not going to have you around to interpret it for them, to fill in the gaps. So you've got to be detailed in the process. Okay, and I'll give you some examples as we talk through here. But you're going to go through and give them step by step. Now, going back to the definition that we had, right? That I'm going to have 2 words up there on. It's what kind of an activity? Inquiry-based. What does that mean that there's an inquiry, or they're asking questions, right? In the process, you will give them the questions that have to be answered to be able to complete the task. So that means your process should include questions, right? So you'll have questions, the questions that need to be answered. Now, I know what you're thinking, because this is what people think all the time. Well, how many questions do there have to be? And the answer is how many ever you need. But it's probably more than one, right? It's probably more than one. But for it to be inquiry-based or inquiry-oriented, there have to be questions. Okay? So the steps to follow and the questions to be answered. And the whole time, continuing the narrative of the scenario down through the thing. Okay? Resources. Resources are the websites where they go find the answers to the questions. Who can tell me how to get an automatic F on a lesson plan in this class? How do you get an automatic F on a lesson plan in this class? We don't use the no-no words, right? What are the no-no words on a lesson plan? Learn. No. Understand, and one more. No. Learn, know, understand. Comprehend. Right? Learn, know, understand, comprehend, or derivatives thereof, right? We use one of those in an objective in this class, and we get a big goose egg, right? Quit reading at that point in time. If you want to know how to automatically fail the web quest, have it in there anywhere. Have it in there anywhere that your students are going to do a web search. I dare you. I dare you to put it in there that your students are going to do a web search. Because when you do that, I go, F, walk out. Right? Done grading you. Okay? You do the research for them. You tell them where to go find the answers. Okay? You will spend more time writing this web quest, finding your websites, than you will writing the web quest. Okay? You have to go find the answers to the questions that you're asking. Because what happens if you turn third, fourth, fifth, or heaven forbid high schoolers loose on the internet to do a search? What's going to happen in your class? They'll do what they want. They may be on Facebook. They may be on other things even worse than Facebook, right? Do you want to have to explain to mom and dad why their child was either doing that in class or was sitting next to somebody doing that in class? Do you want to be that teacher that has to do that? I don't. So you find the answers for them. Okay? Now, for every question that you ask in the process, you have to have at least 3 resources where to find the answer. Why do you think we do that? Allie, why do you think we have to get 3 resources per question? Okay, to provide them with enough information. Why else? Weston, why do you think else would we want multiple websites to answer a question? Can make it easier to find. All right, April, what do you think? For the validity? For the validity? Right, to make sure the information is correct. Is there bad information on the internet? Yeah? So, yeah, it's to triangulate the data, to make sure that we've got multiple points, right? What happens if we don't do that, and if we just have everything tied up into one website? What happens if we assign our students to WebQuest and they go out there and that website goes down that day? What happens to your WebQuest assignment? Right? It's flushed. It's no good. So that also protects against that. Okay? So we're going to have at least 3 websites per question. So let me be clear on what we mean by 3 websites. So let's say that Sean in his class is having them design their own zoo. Right? Maybe he's talking science class talking about different types of animals, animal classifications, right? And they have to have different, they're going to design their own zoo. What animals do they want in their zoo? And so let's say that there's, I don't know what zoo.com is, but we'll say we have zoo.com, right? And so if Sean has them go to zoo.com/, they have to pick a primate. And if he has, under pick a primate, he says go to zoo.com/monkeys, zoo.com/gorillas, and zoo.com/orangutans. Is that 3 websites? I don't know. That's 1. That's zoo.com. Zoo.com goes down, Sean's done. So he might need zoo.com/monkeys, National Geographic/monkeys. You see what I'm saying? So they have to be separate URLs. Separate URLs. Okay? Now beyond that, and this isn't something that is part of the traditional WebQuest format, but it's the Dr. Curry WebQuest format. Your resources that you give, you have to give more than just a URL. They need to be annotated. So in other words, it needs to say what they're going to find when they click on that link. Okay? What will they find when they click on that link? Now there's a way around that. There's a way around the annotation. I'm not going to lie to you. I believe in truth in advertising. The way you can get around that is if you combine them, the process and the resources, right? And what is it in the process that's really important? Step by step. And then what else? Questions, right? So if you say, answer this question, and then you have the resources for that question right underneath them, then it's not going to need to be annotated because it's going to be obvious. They're going to find the answers to that question on those resources. Okay, so that's the only way to get around having to annotate stuff, is if you do the combine that way.
Are you going to post an example? I still don't really get what.
You're not supposed to get it yet. Right now you're listening and taking notes, and then I'll walk you through an example. But there's a bunch of bad examples out there, but we'll get there. Either that or just go out and listen and read my mind out. All right, so that's the process. Excuse me, resources. Next up is the evaluation. The evaluation on a WebQuest is always done in a rubric. Okay? The evaluation is going to be a rubric. And what's that rubric going to be of? Priscilla. Did she not come back? She was on your right, did? Where is she? We're missing somebody. Who was here besides Justin? No? Huh. Interesting. She's not here. She's pretty quiet, so I just noticed that she's not here. I wonder if she went home to work on her video there. I wonder if she thought we were, I don't know. Yeah, that was her. Yeah, I wonder where she went. All right, well, I don't know. What was my question? What was I asking? A rubric. So what is the rubric supposed to be on? Now use your brain, Elizabeth. Huh? No? No? No, okay. What? Be more specific. Use WebQuest terms for me. The rubric's on what? No. 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 Right? No. The task. Right? The task is the assignment. So the evaluation, the rubric, is the rubric to grade the assignment. Did you figure that out all on your own there? Yeah. Look at that. Was that brain food cupcakes? So the rubric is on the task. How is the task going to be graded? Y'all remind me, where's a great place to go create a rubric at? Rubistar makes us happy. Right? So you can go there and copy and paste it in. Rubistar, R-U-B-I-S-T-A-R. It is rubistar.4teachers.org. Rubistar.4teachers.org. All right, now, that brings us up to the conclusion. Okay? The
The conclusion of the web quest is very often screwed up because it becomes one of these things. Yay! You did it! You designed your own Zoom! Good for you! No. It's not a cheerleading section. It's not, I'm so proud of you. You followed directions and you got me into this assignment. No. The conclusion serves one of three purposes. Your students should have the opportunity to, 1, reflect upon the learning process. 2, summarize what has been learned. Or 3, generalize to another situation. Reflect, summarize, or generalize. Your students are given a task to do beyond the normal assignment that's to reflect, summarize, or generalize. Kicker is it can't be graded, but you got to make sure it happens. Okay, reflect on the learning process, summarize what's been learned, or generalize to another area. Okay? It is not a rah-rah section. It's not, hope you learned something about the water cycle. It's really important. Nope. But when y'all go out and look at examples online, mark my words, that's what most of those conclusions are going to be. Yay for you. And then you look at it and go, boo for you. You don't know what WebQuest is. Get out of town. Look at Dr. Curry's lab. Okay? Now, let's give you an example that will help clear that out. Okay? And through this whole thing, all of those, your scenario has to go through the whole thing, right? That's the thread that gets weaved through that provides some cohesiveness. Now, the coolest web quest, not the coolest as far as content goes. Let me clarify this, because it's very gruesome content. But the best example I've ever seen of a web quest that really illustrates the separate sections is a web quest that I found in my first semester that I ever taught web quests. Because as I was trying to research what the heck they were, I didn't save it down, and I've never been able to find it again. But I use it as an example because it does such a good job illustrating the different components. Okay? So forgive the gruesomeness of it, but it was a web quest for a college level criminal justice class. And it was on Jack the Ripper. Okay? First of all, and we all understand that. But imagine that you were in a criminal justice class and you were assigned to just do a paper on Jack the Ripper and you know what you thought about it. Is that going to be fun? I mean, do you write enough papers? I mean, seriously, right? So I thought this was a pretty innovative idea. First of all, start with the introduction. What's the purpose of the introduction? Gain attention and introduce them to the scenario, right? So it was something to the effect of the year is whatever the year was, right? And you are an inspector for Scotland Yard, right? There's been a series of murders in London's West End or wherever it was, right? And they haven't been solved. So you have been called to put on a special task force to solve these murders. Do I have your attention? Do you know what the scenario is? What role you're going to play in the scenario? You got it? Right? That's pretty entertaining right there, okay? From there, can we take a break for a second? All right. Good with that? Okay, my wife's trying to get my son here to the party. You accept the call, okay? Leaving you all hanging on Jack the Ripper.
Like people have to know what's accessible about it. Well, it's too old. It's a 5 hour.
Well, yeah, that's my thought.
Oh, it's 151 intro. I'm sitting on 201. 201, yeah. See, it's scientific.
Mind you, anything you said was recorded. So it's supposed to be Tuesday. What? Ashley? You didn't get trouble? Were you bad enough while I was gone? We'll leave that alone. Alright, so back to Jack the Ripper. You know, things you never thought you'd hear in class. Right? So the introduction introduced the scenario and the role they were going to play. The task was to make an arrest and write an arrest report. Right? They had to go through the subjects and the suspects and the files. They had to decide who to arrest and write an arrest report. Now, obviously, they couldn't go really arrest somebody, but they're following the scenario. So really what they're doing is they're doing the same as writing paper on what they thought about it, but in a different format, a little bit more innovatively, right? The process, it went through, there was like 6, I didn't know this, but I read it, there were 6 different suspects. They pretty much had it narrowed down to 6 people. It was one of those 6, and they had evidence for and against all of them, right? And so, so again, multiple links on each of these, biographies on these people, things of that nature. So we had to go look at the suspects. Unfortunately, and it stuck with me forever, they had links to the case files and the crime scene photos that were supposed to be looked at. And all of this stuff, and you went through all of that and what the evidence was, and you made your decision, right? Now, interestingly enough, you talk about the steps to go through to be able to do the task correctly. One of the things that they put in there that I thought was really a smart thing was one of their links was to persuasive writing and how to write a persuasive report. Which, if you think about it, if you're trying to build a case against somebody, that's all persuasion. So I thought that was very, very forward thinking on their part, rather than just say, go look at the Jack the Ripper stuff and make a decision. You know, they wanted to help write a good report as well, so that was pretty good. So they had their resources embedded in with the process. What was the evaluation? You should be able to tell me this. What would the evaluation have been? The what?
persuasive part, paper.
What about it though? What would the evaluation have been, Sean? Specifically, what would I have found in the evaluation?
That they had reason behind it.
Look at your notes. What's in the evaluation? Rubric on the report. That's what I found. The rubric on how the report was going to be graded. How was that report going to be graded? All right. Now that was really the assignment, right? To write the report and turn it in. Okay. So now to the conclusion. What has to happen in the conclusion? Reflect, summarize, or journalize. One of those three things. And it can't be graded. Right? It's an extension of the assignment. So again, in following with the scenario, it had something like, following, all of the inspectors. Oh wait, who are the inspectors? Who are the inspectors? The students were inspectors, right? Once all the inspectors have turned in the reports to the chief inspector. Who's the chief inspector? The teacher, right? Then the inspectors will divide up according to who they arrested. Right? This is in class. Divide up according to who they arrested and present their case to the other inspectors. And after everyone made their case, then they would decide who it was. So they would argue the case. So would that be reflecting on the learning process? No, that's not reflecting on the learning process. So they're not talking about how they learned or anything like that. Are they summarizing what they learned? Right? If they talk about what they chose on each person, that would be a summary activity. That's not a generalized activity. Right? So that's what they did on that one. Okay? Can you see how, Alex, do you see how the different parts go together?
Okay, so let's just say that I'm doing my own card.
Let's.
Everybody loves card.
Nobody steal her idea.
And all my students are supposedly gardeners.
Okay?
Well, what would their task be to go to the different websites that provide and research different plants?
I don't know. What do you want them to do?
I mean, is that acceptable? Like different.
What would the scenario be? Why are they researching plants?
Well, I don't really like just the river.
Depending on the season of what kind of plants that he grows.
Okay, that would be something. What plants grow in what season, right? Maybe you have to have a year-round garden for some reason, and what would grow when, and that would work.
So that could be like a task.
That could be a task, right?
And we only have one task?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then these websites, I just type in Google, like...
You do all the Googling.
But I can just type in on Google, and then it's the first one that pops up, this one that I write, I can use that one.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
If we get 4, 5, 6 questions, I think that's total a lot of work.
Uh-huh. Like I said, you will do more, you will spend more time finding the answers to your questions than you'll do on it.
And you on this question 1, you on question 2.
So can you use zoo.com on primates as well as amphibians? Yes, you can.
Does
Right.
that count as one of the 3?
Each question has to have 3 websites. But Sean, if he was doing the zoo thing, could use zoo.com on each question, but only once on each question. Right? So if you're doing basketball.com, only one time on each question.
You keep saying about the answers. Is that just, you mean the websites? Is that what's
Yeah, where the websites where they're going to find the answers. So if Alex says this, what grows in winter in Kentucky, then
right?
Kentucky gardening.
Okay. Cool.
I've got a template for you to follow. I can have you do it create a web page with it, but I generally just have you type it up in a Word document. I've got a Word template for you to use. It's got the rubric already, blank rubric in there and everything else. I just find that to be easier. I think we've been through, if we had more time, the rest of the semester hadn't had some of the problems that we had, we probably would have gone ahead and done web pages with it, but this, for the sake of what y'all are doing, I think we'll just have to do it in the Word template. And I'll post that up for you. Because what will happen is the first week, The first week of WebQuests, I've got a sheet for you to where you'll fill out pretty much all of your content, turn it into me, and have me look at it so I can say, oh, no, you're bleeding here, or no, you're not doing that part right, or Sean, what are you doing? You've got 3 zoo.coms on the very same one, that doesn't work, and that type of thing. So, and then the last week, you're just cleaning it up. Okay? Now, another thing about WebQuests is they can be group work. Right? You can do a group web quest. So, for example, if you're doing a wagon train, they're pioneers. You're doing social studies, and they're pioneers going west. Right? You can have them assume different roles. So, one guy might be the quartermaster of the wagon train, who decides what supplies you need and stuff. So, if you do that, then under process, there's going to be a process for the quartermaster and what he has to come up with. You might have the person who's the cartographer, or who figures out from the map what's the best route. There's going to be stuff for them. There's going to be the doctor who, what stuff that they have available to them to bring. There's going to be a process. So if you do a group work, which is perfectly fine, then make sure that you've got their processes separated out and stuff for them on the rubric as well. Okay? Questions on that?
How many questions?
As many as you need, but more than one. Okay? Alright? Do you have a little bit better idea how this is working so far? Okay, how many people do we have here? 6, 9, 11, 13, 16. Alright, let's get in groups of 2. Okay? Here's what we're going to do. Get in groups of 2 and hit a panel on the wall. Okay? Groups of 2 and get a panel on the wall and a marker. Get a separate panel. We should have plenty. Did I count poorly? 6. Look, there's 6, 7, 8. There's 16, so shouldn't there be 2? Is my math that bad? There's an empty one right there. I can't see that. You're hiding behind the smart board. You. Oh, there. Look at that. All right. So, I want you to, as groups, come up with 2 WebQuest ideas for science, social studies, and language arts. Okay? Wait, beyond that, for each of your 2 ideas, not just what's the assignment, the task, but what's the scenario you could teach it in. All right? Set go.
2 per subject?
2 per subject. So give me 2 science, 2 social studies, 2 language arts. So 6 total with scenarios. Two for each. And no cheating off each other. Pickles is down there trying to look at what everybody else is doing. Because I was talking? Oh, come on. Bunch of you. Science, social studies. Okay, so what's the first 5 names? Huh? That's different. That's a good scenario right there. I see that a lot of those. That's good. Well, what's the purpose of it? Okay, so, okay, now hold on, see? This is different than just name all the time. So maybe they need to create that for sure. Right? So the hashtag astronaut, you know what I look for. See out there. See, guys, now you get it. That's less relevant for sure. Y'all don't stress out if these aren't exactly perfect. This is just looking at it.
Someone had Spotify. $500.
Let's go see what we got going on here.
What is it? Oh, hi.
Just trying to get what everybody's doing here.
So that is oceanography. Yes. That's great. Lovely.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, my hair looks
She left your braid in. I'm just getting everything. Okay, that's good. What's thinking? Hey, look, everybody's pickles. Broadcast on the internet. Al, you don't want to be on the internet? There you go. Look at you being on the internet.
I'm so cool.
What? I thought Lori was standing there copying, cheating again. Yeah, science, social studies, and drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, right.
Haven't rewrite a scene from Romeo and Juliet for today on Facebook. Yes, you could.
Sorry. Nice. That's fine, man. I'm not really. Yeah, right.
Here you go.
What is it? They're like, you for this month, they have like discover a route to get to it. Yeah. That's really smart.
I'm gonna leave that alone. You got April, you got the easy street, well, there it is. Please don't teach my children. What about maybe they're a copy editor. Trying to make, maybe they're a copy editor, of a newspaper trying to prove a point to the people that they maybe they could use a newspaper in front of grammar institution on grammar. Pretended exclamation point.
Are you an editor?
It's whatever you want. Well, yeah, this is what's the role and what this is. Yeah, but who are you? Okay. That should do it. English is a hard one. You all speak it. Or a variation. I mean, you're from Kentucky. I don't think that's what it's called.
I would say,
Sign language teacher. Yeah. Yeah. There you go, Seth. That's correct. Yeah. I haven't seen that happen all day long.
maybe
It wasn't
those,
just the word. It's on the internet.
or maybe more trouble finding fair church.
What role are you playing and what's the task? Role and the task.
Yeah, there's no exactly right.
What? No, she told me to get out of her life. I said, I still control your grade. But you have to choose one of these. I'm just kidding. Oh, I can't see it yet. Sorry. Showing your synapses is like a jigsaw puzzle. See, she can run on you like that when she gets over class. I'm going to go through index.
No, like on a reading book that tells you about the book.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Rest of it. Blurbs. Excerpts. Synopsis. SYNOPS. No, no, that first time. SYNOPS. There were alternatives. There were alternatives. And you had it because you were looking to. Then this is what I do. You're done, Weston? You took up two panels, but you're finally done. Let's take another 5 minutes to wrap this up. Cinco minutos más. You didn't put on your shoulder. Where's your man? I'm going to read them all. Don't worry.
How about
It's that first handwriting.
Oh, I know. Copyright my cinnamon. Like this? What are you doing to your teacher? All right, children, go like this. Do what I say. Mom, exactly. My neck hurts today. Why? Miss Harless will give us notes. What?
Like if you write in the paper straight or something. And if you write up still,
You do a WebQuest to your handwriting expert. I thought you said first grade. Generally, the story. I can't wait. That's not true. That's all Weston the other day. I'm going to see Justin at a baseball game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's work.
You really don't want to pass this class, do you? I bet you did. I bet you did. Yours probably next to never. You don't have to record with your voice, you can do it by text. Are y'all done? All right. How was that? You got your creative juices flowing?
English was hard.
Why could English be the hardest? English is the easiest one.
It's just too specific. Find out more about it.
Well, we believe in cross-curricular activities. So. All right, let's see what you got here. I'm going to go through these just like I was reading them, like if you were turning them in. So we're going to have thick skin. Okay. Huh? No. We're going to... I'm going to start over here from yours. All right. So let's review. You were supposed to have what role you played and what task you were going to have to do, right? Is that correct? All right. So we'll start over here with Miss Handwriting Award. Actually, we'll start above here. So science, you have space, moon. So there's a moon, or is that what you got? They're going to assume the role of the moon? Oh, that's the topic. The tasks are an astronaut looking for rock types that are found on the moon. So what are you going to have your students do? So, but you can't send them to the moon to look for rock types. So what are they going to do? What? And then do what? What's the assignment that they would turn into you? Huh? That's the task, right? No, don't be confused. Let's see. Your next one, you have oceanography. So they're deep sea divers observing an underwater volcano and what aquatic life lives there. Okay? See, both of those are fine topics, but then what's the assignment you're going to give them at the top? Those are good scenarios, but then what assignment are you going to do? So this diver observing underwater volcanoes and aquatic life, what's he going to do with that information? Or she? What report? Volcano butterfly. If they're a diver, maybe you could have them do a dive book entry. Something like that. Because see, I've got my dive log book, and part of your diver's log is you put what you saw when you dove.
So whenever I write my web quest, I put into this. How about you just like have a box for it?
No. They're going to do something with this information. See if you come on time. All right. Next up, language arts. You've got for writing, pretend you're a reporter interviewing Ernest Hemingway. Okay, so that's good because they would write up an interview between them and Ernest Hemingway. See, that's good. Grammar, pretend you're an editor from a newspaper and look for errors in reporters' news stories. So I would assume that for that you would point them to online news sources to have them go through specific stories. Okay? Good. Social studies, Civil War. Kids are in nurse during the Civil War and collecting stories from wounded soldiers. So you're going to go find accounts online, things of that, and then what are they going to turn in? Also, they're going to write a journal. Right. Okay? And for Lincoln, describe the scene you were in Ford's Theater when he was shot. Okay? Those all work pretty well. One of the things you're going to want to make sure you don't do when you write your web quests is don't say pretend you are a. Because you want them to assume the role. You're going to jump right in. You were in Ford, the day this other year. You've gone to the play tonight at Ford's Theater. President Lincoln was shot. What did you say? That. All right? Okay. Let's go over here to the great jigsaw puzzle. All right. Alex kind of just wrote all over the place, didn't she? Sean's got this nice little neat part right in the middle. Okay. Science gardening, your task is to determine what plants grow in what season. Now, that's kind of what we talked about before. You're a gardener, okay? So what are they going to turn in with that?
It's like I think it's like a house for like a card, like what flowers, or they just do like fruits.
Okay, that one probably needs a little bit more work on it, but I see what you're saying. Anatomy, you're working in a lab recently, a mutation has been brought to your attention. Did you come up with this on your own, Sean? This is hers, really? Wow.
I think it's Spider-Man.
You believe it's from a spider bite. Your task is to research and find the side effects. We're going to write it on side effects, okay? Language arts, you're a New York Times bestselling author, and your task is to release the synopsis of your upcoming anticipated book about whatever. Okay, that's a viable thing, right? You could have them look at other places. You could send them to websites where they see press releases for upcoming books. You could do practice ones. You have practice by writing a short press release for books that they like, things like that. Pretty good. You're a celebrity, and recently People magazine has released false rumors about you. Your task is to release a statement with examples explaining how they are false. Yikes. Dear Diary, why I don't want to grow up to be Snooki. Okay, let's see. Social studies, 1920s. You're a police officer trying to end prohibition in your town. Find the local hotspots and shut them down. A statement must be made about your findings. Okay, if you're a police officer, you're trying to uphold prohibition. Right? They were enforcing the law. Right? So, prohibition prohibited alcohol, so they would be.
Well, I was thinking of like the opposite.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. You want to get rid of the speakeasies in town. That's what you're trying to do. Right. Okay, and then, you're a treasure hunter located in the Caribbean, and you're trying to avoid the Bermuda Triangle. Draw a map to lead the crew away from the triangle and locate the lost treasure. That one would probably need a little bit more work because it's kind of vague, but great. All right, let's see here. I got to turn my head sideways to read Amy's writing. Astronomy. As an astronaut, you must create a travel brochure of the moon. Okay, well, they found them, and that works. Archaeologists reconstruct the model of a T-Rex. I don't know how you're going to have them do that. But maybe you've got a few extra ones laying around. Okay, so how are you going to have them do that? You can have them make it out of matchsticks, out of Lego. Okay, all right. So you want to think through that before you get into something like that. Right? Social studies. As a private investigator for the U.S. President, you must investigate the bombing of Pearl Harbor. What are they going to investigate? The Japanese did it. Okay, all right. And then what are they going to turn in? So let me ask you this. If you hire a private investigator, is he going to give you his journal or is he going to give you a report? So we're going to want to be consistent with our scenarios. Okay? As a sailor, you must travel to Columbus to discover an unknown land. This is kind of like this one over here with the Caribbean, locate the lost treasure. You got to be careful being really too broad on stuff, because if you say unknown land and you leave it, you know, I've seen WebQuests before where students have said, you know, you're a record executive, that, or you're, what was the one? I got to think of it. Y'all have basketball in here? You know Terrell Harris, who plays for the Heat? He was in my class. So Terrell, for his, did, because I remember getting on him about this. I don't know why I just remember this. He did something, he was a music executive, and he wanted to trace trendsetters, you know. He said, pick music artists that were trendsetters. And so I said to him, okay, wait a minute, that's not going to work because it's too broad. If you're going to do that, you're going to follow that. If you're going to leave it open to any artist, then you have to have links about every artist, right? So if you say unknown lands, you have to have links to all the lanes. So you have to go find information, right? So what I said on the music one is I said, you know, pick 3 artists. I think we said Madonna, and we said Michael Jackson, and I don't know who we picked at that time. Was the third one, but we talked about which one of these was a bigger influence on fashion and all that stuff. So we narrowed it down to some specifics. All right, what do you have here? Language arts. You're a reporter interviewing an American soldier in the Civil War. You must write an article about his journey to the local newspaper. Task. You are the letter S in the alphabet. Fantastic. You must write a poem using only words beginning with S. That's kind of goofy. But it kind of works. I mean, it would kind of work, I think, for a young one. You'd probably want to, I mean, it sounds totally goofy, but I actually think it's goofy in the sense that it would probably work. You know, maybe they're having an argument with the other letters, you know, or, you know, who can come up with the best poem, right? I mean, for first or second grade, that'd probably be pretty good, especially if you did it in such a way that they each had their own letter. Whoever got X, just, right? X and Q. Let's see, I don't like you. You give me problems. So
basically, for that easy study, you are, how do you wrap it up? You are a letter in the alphabet. At that time, you need to put in there that the teacher will assign each student.
Well, if you're writing to first or second graders, are you going to call yourself the teacher in the scenario? Or are you going to be the page master? You see what I'm saying? We have to have buy-in as the authors of a WebQuest. We have to have buy-in to the scenario to make the scenario work. Do you see what I'm saying? Especially if you're going to take something like this is way out there that is really fantastical. I mean, they can actually grow up to be a private investigator, an archaeologist, or an astronaut, or a reporter. They can't grow up to be the letter S, right? So if you're going to have something that's fantastical like that, you need to keep it fantastic, I think. Okay? All right, let's see what we got here next. Students marine biologists who study different ecosystems and water bodies, migration patterns of certain fish. Compare and contrast different water bodies, ecosystems to migration patterns of fish. How? How are they comparing and contrasting? What's their product that they're turning in?
I think what we were thinking was like you would assign like a certain fish, like a certain type of shark or a certain type of whale, and follow where they originate and where they migrate to during migration patterns.
And then what do they turn in?
Like an excited.
Okay. All right. So that's what you got here.
We knew what we were saying, but it's not right.
Your next one's the same type of thing. It's a
Yeah.
microbiologist and compare and contrast. Compare and contrast. You like compare and contrast?
Yeah.
Identify proper perception writing the thesis. Okay. Role of a presidential candidate. Determine what states they should campaign according to party, union, confederate, or civil war. So what are they going to do here on this one? Please don't tell me write another essay.
No, they're going to pretend that they're a presidential candidate running into the war.
And what are they turning into you to be great
They
at?
are turning in sites and they're like whether Republican or Democrat.
So just a list.
Yeah.
Okay. Assume the role of an ancestor following their journey to America, determine cultural heritage, German, Russian, track differences between generations. So how would they assume the role of an ancestor? One of their own ancestors? If you did that, then you have to have links to all of their family trees. Right? So that becomes problematic. But you can't let them go do a search. You have to have the stuff. So on something like that, that might be a little
Well,
bit
maybe
more
you
difficult.
could change it to like, limit it down to 3 different heritages, like German, Russian, Asian. And then have them do research on those 3 people.
How those people
Like,
generally came over?
Yeah.
Or, okay, that probably needs a little bit more fleshing out, but that might be something that would work. Let's see what we've got here. This one took 2 boards. Right, you're a geologist who studied igneous rocks, and you have discovered 3 types of igneous rocks. How can there be 3 types of igneous rocks? Aren't they just igneous rocks?
Well, 3 different, we have a CD.
See, that's why I'm asking. I was an English teacher, so there's a reason I don't know. My dad was a geologist, but I wasn't. So, okay, so they're going to identify 3 types of rocks. So what would they do? You're just going to have pictures, and they're going to have to.
Well, they
They'll
have
see.
to research like the properties of rocks. Like, they realize the city is like volcanic glass and flat and stuff. They have to, also identify like potential points of what makes stuff like.
But where would they be getting the things to identify? My question. What? Do you see my question? Do you see what I'm saying?
where it tells them.
We have the rocks.
You'd have the rocks too, but what? How's that going to work? Do you see what I'm saying? They're going to go through something on the internet that they've got to turn in a product to you. So, unless you're giving them,
We could give them a list of the rocks and like the rocks themselves, and they could figure out which ones are which.
okay, a match, all right, kind of hinky, but it works. All right, Nash, you're an astronomer who studies cycles of the moons. Identify when during the month the phases are to occur. Couldn't they just look that up in an almanac? They're not allowed. Don't go to the most obvious answer. Report covering the sinking of the Titanic. Identify 3 factors that help sink the Titanic. Or what are they going to turn in? Are they going to write an article? Or what are they? How are they turning it in? Or are they going to shoot a video of them reporting the scene? Yeah, that one. This is less than the Titanic sank. There was a big iceberg. Is that what it is? They couldn't move in time. You're an see, it's good it's not Tuesday. You're an archaeologist who's excavating in South and Central America. You found 3 types of ancient currency. You're to identify the 3 cultures of this currency lawsuit: Mayan, Incan, or Aztec. Okay? So, how would you, that's almost like this again. What is it that you're going to show them to have them come up with a product for, right? I mean, it works, but that would need some fleshing out to make that workable, right? Okay, you're a benefactor writing letters to tornado victims, trying to decide what types of letters to write. Determine 3 formats of appropriate writing letters to families of varying circumstances. I don't understand.
Well, in one, they lost their dog, so we have to say, I'm sorry, your dog.
Let's get the next one said. You're a struggling author who's forgotten how to punctuate. You know what? I don't know any college students who've forgotten how to punctuate. You have a book deadline quickly approaching. You must remember, identify 3 situations where commas, semicolons, and periods must be used. So what would they be turning in for that one? I like the scenario, actually. The scenario was very fun.
Well, I think
You forgot how to punctuate.
oh. Well, they can imagine how they forgot. But what they can do is like have a paragraph where they have to properly punctuate each piece.
So that you would have included in your thing a paragraph. Once they've gone through and looked up those rules, then you're going to give them a sample of their text that they have to then go punctuate. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, 3 times.
3 times? 3 different situations? Okay. All right, let's see what we have next. You ready? No. Writing a book. Go through the steps as an author on publishing a book. Right? So, what is it that you would have them turn into you? An essay on how to write a book? Okay? Do you want to do that, son? Then you wouldn't want to do it, would you? Do you think you want to grade it 30 times? Okay. That's a good tip right there, kids. Right? If you don't want to do it, you don't want to grade it 30 times. The idea of publishing is really a good one. You know, that's a good one. It goes with language arts. But you probably want to just try to come at it some other way than just, we can always write a paper, right? You can always write a paper, but we hate writing papers, so why do teachers default to writing papers, right? We can be better than writing papers. Just remember that. Punctuation game. Find and create a game to teach your students punctuation. I would probably take out fine because that would require me to search, right? But I like the idea of creating a punctuation game. That's really innovative. I like that a lot, right? Because you have to look at things on what the good games have and the punctuation rules and which ones are the most important to include. And I like that idea a lot. That would actually be a really cool WebQuest. Instead of role of the teacher, there could be a game designer, maybe an educational game designer or something like that. Science fossils. There are paleontologists / business owners. Creative dinosaur museum. Cool. Electricity. Pretend to be Benjamin Franklin and present electricity to the world. So, like a newspaper article, something like that. Okay. I was flying my kite and. Ow! I gotta tell everybody. Make it powerful. Social studies. Pilgrims plan a trip to America. Okay. Soldiers in war have students explain what their position in the military did. So. Again, if you say what position in the military, that's huge. But if you pick, what is this role? What's the infantry versus the, something like that. Because again, we tend to want to think like this, and when we're doing breakfast, we need to think like this because it opens up all those resources. All right, let's see what we've got here. Science. Create their own, be a weatherman or a woman, and create your own weather forecast. So how would they do that? What are they turning in?
Like what you see on weather, like grass and draw picture.
So where they're doing they're doing.
Yeah,
Oh, so just like 7-day forecast, not the map with the low pressures and the high pressures and things. You ever watch the weather too?
Yeah.
That doesn't look fun? Alright, be an astronomer and create your own star. Okay, so what would they turn in for that? For creating their own stars. Okay, and then what are they going to do with it? Light it on fire. There's the lesson we all know and love. So give it a name, talk about where it is. Okay. Language arts, newspaper newspaper reporter. Write an article about a landmark in their hometown. Okay. Let's think about Moorhead. How many landmarks do we have here? Where are you from? You're from Ashland. Where? You're from Greenock? It's a nice scoreboard on the baseball ground. How many? Well, I was just up there, right? You got the one on the side of the road going up that way. That's got the airplane and the tank and the, right? What else is up there? Okay, how many of those bunch of stuff do you want to have to find a link for? Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? When you leave it open like this, then you've got to have this stuff. Oh, is that what it is? You had it here, you just were saving space. Be an interpreter, use sign language to create a short sentence about themselves. So what are they going to turn in? That was pretty bad. That was pretty bad. We'll just move along. Social studies. Geography. Plan a trip from their town to a country via pilot. Okay, again, here, because there's lots of countries, to here. Okay, narrow it down. History. Create the supplies you would need to make a trip out west like the pioneers. Okay? Science. Man, this one's kind of all jammed together. These are all. But it's all neat. Create an aquarium. The student works at an aquarium, and they need to fill a new aquarium with fish and other underwater creatures by determining which creatures are cohabitable. So what are they turning in?
I would actually take off. You can start from paper and either draw or print out pictures of little animal or creatures from the link we provided. And depending on what the first creature they pick is going to determine the rest of the time how they.
Very good. I like it. Students are astronauts in the future and planning a trip to a planet that's never been visited before. They must plan a trip including what they will do while there and the supplies needed.
Just a planet in our galaxy.
Okay, so that means all the links on all of those different ones. Pluto doesn't count anymore.
But they do create an itinerary and a scope for in.
It doesn't say itinerary. It says what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's not all the other stuff. What?
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't mean to not answer the question. Social studies. Students either pilgrim or an Indian attending the first Thanksgiving. They must research the crops available at that time and plan a meal. Good. Student is a child alive during the Civil War. They must research the day of their life, including toys they had, what they would eat, chores they might have had, clothes they were born, and they're going to turn in what?
They're going to write a journal.
Journal entry. You're a poet, and you're writing a new poem for your upcoming book. A fellow poet is challenged to create a poem that has the same rhyme scheme as the one they have written on the seasons using the same topic. So you're going to give them one?
Yeah, we've actually found a poem about the season, and that would be one of the links that you go get it and read this poem, and then they have to create a poem using that same rhyme scheme about the season.
Okay. You work in the TV station and are preparing cue cards for newscast to be used on the set. You must create cue cards to use, making sure they're grammatically correct, including information for your hometown.
Well, what I can't say, but and about news for your home.
Okay. That has a potential to be out here, right?
News events.
I'm just saying. Just saying. You gotta remember. All right. Now, what you have to do is we're going to randomly, I've got a random number generator on my phone here. We're going to randomly generate numbers, and you have to choose one of these to do. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What? What'd you say? No, I'm just kidding. Does this help you, Alex? I'm going back to you. Does this help you see better how this works?
Yeah.
Does this help everybody else as well? Have some fun. This can be really fun and creative, right? Have some fun. Generally, this is one that a lot of people enjoy being able to do. But just think beyond writing papers.
For me, though, it's actually harder to mock and roll. I don't know how to narrow it where it's not 1,000 different things.
Then if you have a question, you go this. Dr. Kirk, I'm thinking this. Is it too broad? And I go, yes. Or, no, that's actually pretty good. You know, just send me a little thing, call me, you got my phone number. So I'm thinking about this, right? Because I'd like you to have what I'll put on next week when you're doing your podcasts is I'm also going to put up a link for you to tell me what you're going to do your WebQuest on, because you can only have 2 weeks after that to do it. Okay? So the first week of the WebQuest, you'll write up content and have links, and then you'll get all of that approved, and then you'll put it in the format for the last week. All right? Fair enough? Now, we need to talk about the final. Now you're going to pay attention? You have to pay attention all day long, and now I say final, and she's like, uh-huh. The whole time I was over there, you were over here yakking. You got up and left, and you came back. Yeah. Think I don't see. Stephanie, what do you want to do for the final? Nothing? Can we do nothing for the final?
Why not? That's a request.
That's your WebQuest. It's not your WebQuest. Here's what the final is going to be, okay? I'm going to take what I normally do for a final, and I'm going to chop it way down, okay? To probably a third of the size. Here's what if I was in your shoes, here's what I would study when it comes time for the final. All the stuff that we've talked about, technology integration, the do's and the don'ts, I'll give you heat phrases to remember about it, stuff like that. Technology integration is the main point of this class. So I'm not going to tell you exactly the format that you're going to get that back to me on, but that's what I would study for the final. And it will probably, my guess, take you maybe a half an hour to do this. That's my guess. Yeah. You'll be all right. I'm not going to tell you the format. But I'm going to have to work it so that you don't get your boyfriend in Japan to do it for you. It might be technology based. It could be. Weird. Huh? Yeah. But it'll be all right. It'll be all right. So what you have left to do this semester is we've got the final. I'm going to go backwards. The final, the WebQuest. We're going to do, we've done the video. We're going to do a podcast. And we're going to do a short, see how I went like this? Short lesson plan at the end of next week with the podcast, right? Right now, don't listen to me. Go on. Because, did I say short or did I say long? Okay, and quit thinking long. Because I want you to, whatever the WebQuest, or the podcast you create, write a lesson plan incorporating that podcast. Right? That's pretty easy. That's pretty easy. That's what it would be. Okay?
How do we put hours in the folio?
Your critical performance thing? Your critical performance for this class is a technology-based lesson plan. I've never used Folio 180, not even one time. So how do we do that? I don't know. I can find out though. I'm going to do it.
just that like the teachers made their.
Oh, you're talking about your hours,
Yeah.
right? Is that what we were talking about earlier? Do you want to show them on here? Do you want them to log in here and show them? Do you know what?
Well, everybody should have.
Everybody has the email on how to do it?
But I mean,
Here's
we
it.
help each other.
Because you put it in my class. You observed it in my class. You did it. You did peer tutoring in my class. That's what your hours are. Miss Cooley's got the stuff on that. I'll ask her on Monday. But you're covered. I'll make sure you're all covered. Worst case scenario, if it screws up, I'll say, oh, I messed that up. Sorry. I'll get mad at you. They'll make me sign it in main papers. Fair enough. I'll take it on my broad shoulders. Other questions? Where are we at? Oh, still waiting. I really let you go an hour, don't I? What? Because you paid for the time. What's the what? I don't care. Any questions for me? Yeah, you feeling good where we're going for the end of the semester? What are we going to do with grade questions? Send them to me. All right. Guys, it's been fun. It really has. If you ever need anything, let me know. Okay? Hold on, I'm going to cut this off here real quick.
Appreciate it.